And in the Bible, the good thing, that is the good thing, is that God sent his messenger to be mocked and laid all sins upon him. This is good. We have already examined the prophecies of Solomon and Isaiah. So, based on these contradictions, one can clash. Karl Marx generally says that there is no God, while these say that God exists. Such a difference in understanding can be manipulated, as transnational corporations and banks do. Imagine, we are the leaders of a transnational corporation producing airplanes, helicopters, or ships. We need to sell them. How to sell? There needs to be a war. How to organize a war? Suddenly religious antagonisms are stirred up and begin to defend their ideals. That's how prices went up. A conflict arose, the Indo-Pakistani incident. Some defend one ideal, others another. We sell weapons and so on. It can even be done this way. It is not necessary to have a large war, but to organize a small conflict or tension, expose the deficiencies of the weapons, and carry out modifications to those weapons. And what is modification? It means you need to re-equip the existing weapons or throw the old ones in the trash. Make new ones. And again, the money flows. In other words, it turns out that for some, war is everything. For others, it's like a mother. The biggest money circulates in 3 markets on planet Earth. First market is the raw materials market. Take oil. You see that all prices fluctuate based on electricity, that is, on energy, because all goods are produced using electric power. And oil is precisely one of those raw material sources from which all price fluctuations begin. Therefore, the raw material industries are first, arms are in second place, and drugs are in third place. Moreover, the drug market is currently more profitable than the arms market. That is why there is so much attention in the press and to events related to drugs. Those who try to dismantle this market and break free from obedience face harsh military intervention. That side, as you remember, arrested drug lords in Nicaragua, Colombian ones, and so on. This mafia is being crushed. Those who do not want to share and want to live on their own. And indeed, all of this is truly under the control of this mafia. Now, from the position of this same third priority, ideological or technological, one can look at what is happening in our country. During the years of perestroika, and even now, one of the methods of managing and conquering our country is happening. Pushkin spoke very well about this priority. He said, "Fast, peaceful peoples, honor and pull will not awaken you. What do herds need the gifts of freedom for? They should be slaughtered or sheared. Their inheritance from generation to generation is a yoke with jingles. Here we are being herded." Who? All sorts of muftis, mullahs, priests, archimandrites, general secretaries are shearing us like sheep with the help of usury. From the perspective of party building, what has happened to us? We were given freedom, democracy, and divided into numerous parties. Look, agrarian parties defend the interests of peasants. By the way, why not call it a peasant party? Oh, a foreign word. Agrarian. It sounds nicer. Peasants. This again is a pull towards the West. Agrarian parties. RK, RP, Tyulkin, and so on. They are concerned about the interests of workers. The movement in support of the armies is whining. People, save us. And the people respond, why didn't you save us? Christians walk in processions. Christ is risen, while Muslims shout, Allah Akbar, and so on. We have all been divided. And notice, all these parties are concerned about the people's happiness. But has life gotten better for people? Because of these efforts. The village is destroyed. Workers are without pay and without work. The army was defeated without a war. There was no war, yet the army was defeated. Now we will further illustrate this. Party of industrialists, entrepreneurs. Small and medium businesses are dying. Meanwhile, Orthodox Christians are successfully fighting against the true believers, Everyone is fighting for the people's happiness. So think about it. What is the trick? Here is a principle, a concept. Divide, incite conflict, rule, and you will dominate over many nations. Moreover, Judaism is involved here, as they are made the scapegoats. And opposing them are Makashov, Barkashov, who say beat the Jews, while all the science, that is, they are to blame for everything. Now you understand the role of Judaism in this matter. They are hostages, not realizing it themselves, and we tell them that they are just a tool. When the tool is submerged, it is thrown away, and a new one is taken. The conceptual party says that all these parties are integrated into this concept. That is, first and foremost, the leaders themselves do not understand that they are destroying our country with their own hands. Look at the events that have taken place over these years. Rallies, marches, protests. What has it led to? Has any problem been solved? Not a single problem has been solved. Not solved. And we say, no problem will be solved till we change the overall concept. Because within the framework of this concept, it is pointless to fight. Therefore, we are allowed to fight, to defend our rights. But, in the end, it results in nothing. If we are touching on the issue of the army and the power of priorities, let's look at the undefeated and legendary one that has known the joy of victory in battles. Where is it invincible and legendary? Right now, General Ivashov is speaking there, saying we need to strengthen the army. If we save the army, we will save Russia. There are patriots and so on. Save. Did we have a weak army or something? Well, here I am sitting in front of you as an officer. I served in the Space Forces. Did we have weak rockets or something? Or were there not enough tanks, and were they bad? Well, one could talk about the shortcomings. There were nuances. But our army, everyone was afraid of it. With what did they destroy the army? Let's now look at these priorities. Here, the army solves problems by force. The drunkenness of officers and generals, was that really the case? Or can you hide from it? Everyone drank, the whole country drank, and officers too. Yes, indeed. Moving on. Economic priority. This gave some the opportunity to profit. Can you imagine how much was stolen, grabbed, sold, and resold when the troops were withdrawn from Germany? Or, on the contrary, the poverty of junior officers who, remember, had some salaries, and even now they are poor, which is why they are fleeing the army. That is, the greed of some and the poverty of others. And this is precisely the management core in the army. Absence of ideology. Before there was at least one wrong thing, but now the army is completely out of politics. Pasha Grachev said, and what does it mean to be out of politics, you now know. Out of politics means out of life, because there are many fields, many interests. It turned out that all this higher weaponry was destroyed by the army. There was no war, yet the army was defeated. We practically have no army now. And Putin said this when the gangs entered Dagestan. He said there was nothing to defend with, there are no troops. For this reason, they cannot establish order in Chechnya. We are moving up the priorities. On the second shelf is chronological priority, that is, information of historical nature. We are moving up the priorities to 2. Wolves. Here is the second priority, which is chronological priority, information of historical nature. And how does this relate to the third? Holy Rus, Cyril and Methodius, the Slavic teachers. Thank you for bringing writing to Rus. Was there really no writing before this? There was, and quite a lot. And there was a high culture. But that was already the pagans. Pagan Rus. They wear the swastika and say, we will wipe out the Christians. That is, the contradiction. And conflict here are based on historical myths that are being formed. It is very easy to illustrate the power of this historical chronological weapon with another distorted mirror. We are told that facts are stubborn things. Lie. Facts are very flexible things. Here I have 5 fingers on my hand. This is a fact, a fact. I showed this fact like this, one picture, like this, another. like this, a third, and so on. What is history? It is history and a set of facts. One history from the perspective of Christianity, another from the perspective of Buddhism, a third from the perspective of Islam. Fomenko and Nosovsky literally invented their version of history. That's all. From the perspective of history, historical myths are formed and, so to speak, ideologies of worldview are formed. That is, the principle of divide and conquer is being realized again. Thus, we have confirmed that chronological priority is a very powerful weapon, and we have history in schools. Well, I studied, and as they said, yes, someone needs history. So one must know mathematics, physics, and in general, the humanities are not very necessary for a modern person. As it turned out, look, historical knowledge is very powerful. By the way, Fomenko and Nosovsky applied mathematical models to process the factual information they are aware of. He taught mathematics in school. And Fomenko and Nosovsky applied mathematical models to process the factual information they are aware of. And the young guys, school children, know computers, think quickly. And history is all distorted in Russia. And Fomenko and Nosovsky introduced such an inversion in the minds of the youth that young people, of course, are fascinated by events, while teachers cannot argue anything because they do not understand these mathematical models. So who did Fomenko and Nosovsky work for then? Think about it. That is, they seem to have noble goals, everything. This is why we say that scientists claiming to represent significant knowledge should always first express their worldview standard. That is, to show on what philosophical platform they stand. Their attitude towards managing social processes, because what is the point of describing events, whatever they may be, as they occurred? In this sense, it is very good to read Leo Nikolaevich Tolstoy's War and Peace. There is a section called Epilogue 2, at the very end of the book. And there, Leo Nikolaevich reflects on what history is. It's generally interesting, but if I were to summarize it briefly, what is it about? He says that history is usually presented as follows. There were two emperors, Alexander, the Russian emperor, and Napoleon. They lived well, then quarreled and started to fight each other, then made peace and lived well again, then quarreled again, and Napoleon went to war against Russia and even reached Moscow. So, he says, this is how history is presented to us in history textbooks by teachers and so on. But what Leo Nikolaevich Tolstoy goes on to say is that while this was happening, people lived, gave birth to children, sowed wheat, wrote books. You won't find any of this in history. Ordinary history is the history of kings, emperors, and so on, some events, military battles, and sometimes the history of culture. In other words, it describes the entire history, full of facts. And there are countless facts. How do we look at these facts? Through what lens? For this reason, in the concept of public safety, the history of humanity is examined through the management of social processes. And then, since you can't describe all the facts, knowing how the management ended, you can understand, in particular, that the War of the Roses in England was the extermination of the national elite in England. This is how it appears, and all the other processes that took place, including Russia's conquest, with the introduction of Christianity in Byzantium. Our Sviatoslav was indeed attacking the Khazar Khaganate. He fell along with his warriors. This means that there was a Spartan way of life among the people. That is, there was a certain sense of community among them. And what did his mother like? The chanting, the robes, all of that, which means the introduction into Christianity began, and the elite. Back then there were no discos or anything else. Where to? In the synagogue for brainwashing. It's nice there, they sing songs. There were no clubs either. These rituals attracted them, and the elite fell into dependence. But moving from chronological priority to methodological, it is very convenient to illustrate here. There is a certain Moisey Israelovich Metter, who wrote the novel The Fifth Angle. It was published in the magazine Neva in 1989, issue 1. And he stated there, and the quote goes like this: "I have many facts, that is, historical facts. I have enough facts, am fed up with facts, but I am poor methodologically." And this is the significant point around which the Jews are meant. We are taking a circular defense and shooting until the last bullet, which implies the last bullet for oneself. As you can see, it is stated quite definitively. What is it about? Let's remember these pyramids again, one and the other. Here at the top is methodology, while the elites are given factual knowledge concerning them. That is, the Minister of Transport and Rails polishes, does not need to know history. The Minister of Defense shoots, does not need to know the economy. In other words, everyone honestly does their job, and by the method of entertainment, they do not possess what is good, what is bad, how it should be. So hold this picture now. Thus, the methodological priority means that people can be given such knowledge that they will understand everything themselves, will figure out what is right, what is wrong, what is false, what is good, what is bad. That is, to distinguish between phenomena occurring in people's lives. Now, we are slave owners. Do we need slaves to think better than us or not? The answer is obvious. That is why this knowledge is not given to the lower layers of this pyramid of the mass elitist model. That is, at the top, the ancient Egyptian priesthood had the correct understanding of the universe, of how everything happens, and the others did not need this. They were given a false worldview. This is where we started our first lecture. That is, the most important weapon is methodological, so that slaves do not break free from obedience and do not understand. And it turned out that it was enough to give people a wrong understanding of the surrounding world. And this allowed to control millions, billions of people for many hundreds and even thousands of years. And in this sense, it is appropriate to remember that in Egypt, in Luxor, there are ancient monuments. There is a stone, and on it was a battle of the Kadesh in 1312 BC, that is, over 3,000 years ago, where the Hittites taught the Egyptians a lesson. And in honor of his defeat, Ramses II erected a monument, and it says, "Everyone thinks that I lost. But for the next 3,000 years, everyone will understand that I won." This is what Ramses II meant. Now let's turn to these priorities. Ramses II's troops indeed suffered defeat at the sixth priority, here in the military. But for 3,500 years, there has been a process of concentrating the management of humanity's productive forces through methodology and all other priorities. And the world ended up in the hands of a global mafia, the heirs of the ancient Egyptian priesthood, who I drink, well and I drink, well and I drink, well and I drink, unfortunately, or somehow I said it incorrectly, but by choosing the wrong vector of goals, they led humanity to a global systemic crisis. Here is the role of methodology, the methodological priority. Many of us patriots, when it comes to people's lives and current events, need to address economic issues. By the way, we can also talk about the role of the party here, about the role of outstanding figures of modernity. Let's look through the lens of priorities at what is recommended to us. So patriots mainly focus on weapons. We need to kill everyone with automatic weapons. I already told you about the Rocklins, who were armed with the weapons, to create a forceful capture of the Kremlin. They told him, Lev Yakovlevich, well, let's enter the Kremlin further. We'll figure out what's next, and then he would have worked, which would not have been sustainable. Why? People did not understand what was happening, and he would have worked for the global backstage. Because in Tatarstan, Shemiev said, as long as there is chaos in Moscow, we Tatars will separate. The Yakuts are the same. And it would have spread. All of Russia would have disintegrated like the USSR did. This is what Lev Yakovlevich was focused on. So the power of weapons is different. Grigory Alexeyevich Yavlinsky, whom many admire, does he need to deal with the economy? Should economic problems be solved? stop all this unnecessary chatter? We'll see. The economy is the fourth priority. In life, the management of the country's economy is determined by ideologies, historical traditions, the preferences of the people, and so on. No one talks about this at all. And Glaziev, as I told you, the same thing, the economy and so on. Here is an outstanding figure. But in reality, I remind you once again, Glaziev is a follower of Chubai. Chubai's just told the people, fools, how much there is on the ground. We will divide the factories and plants. Each will get a voucher, like a dog. As a result of what are the two Volgas with spare wheels? There is nothing. And what does Glaziev say now? Fools, everything that is on the ground has already been divided by Chubais. Let's divide what lies inside the earth. The essence is the same, only the name instead of voucher is rent. It's the same thing. People are greedy, they say. How can it be? I will get something there. You will get nothing because all processes are controlled. And a situation will be created where the voucher was sold for a piece of sausage because there was nothing to eat. So you will sell this rent as well. You must not do this. You must not listen to these deceivers. Well, read about all the other parties too. This is mainly what they talk about. Porfiry Kornevich Ivanov, for example. May he rest in heavenly peace, as they say. So what does he say? We will lead a healthy lifestyle. Well, we will lead, and I need healthy, strong slaves. Therefore, he says, well, behave yourselves. Don't drink, don't smoke, good, society of sobriety, corners, Zhdanov, and so on. Well, what can I say? Yes. Let's lead a healthy lifestyle, not drink, not smoke. But what will happen next? By the way, what did they achieve in their sobriety movement? Many sober individuals who have come out of a binge have learned to sober others up. And now what do they have? They make money from this, and it turns out, like in that song, in the fight against the green snake, the snake wins. Which snake? Here the green snake refers to vodka and moonshine, and here the green snake refers to dollars. So, it turns out that for them to live well, there need to be more alcoholics. That is, I will be treating them then. If there are no alcoholics, then who will I treat? There won't be any money. These are the trends in this sobriety movement. That's why it doesn't exist, by the way. It was indeed a very good initiative. They are certainly outside of politics, and they are hiding in the bushes. The Anastasians are also trying to take control. There are very serious points expressed there. In Megre's books, Vladimir Nikolaevich, I know him personally, so now are they trying to take them away and subordinate them too? According to the corresponding ideals, but what is the essence? Family estates. And what is behind the family estates? There are police, taxes. So what? You will create a space of love on 1 hectare, and what will happen to the others? They need to go into politics, and they did. For now, United Russia has overshadowed their movement. Why has United Russia overshadowed them? And it's very convenient. Those who have built castles and palaces for themselves are already practically living according to Anastasia's guidelines. The only thing is that they are not building a space of love in these castles, but rather prison romanticism, meaning they have erected fences with barbed wire, with loopholes and so on. But now they need to legalize this. Therefore, the movement of Anastasians is very convenient for legalizing all of this and for the people to accept it. That's why they started to support it. They were once considered a sect and so on. But now they are supported because they align with their own interests. The only one who, the Zhuganov party, it is in third priority. But what is this theory? Marxist. Which one? And what does Marxism mean? It is materialism. And materialism is an incorrect understanding of life. That is, it is a whole system of views. False. That is, there is no God there. And since these are false representations, it is a dead-end situation. And above this priority, we have no one of our own. Here you have, so to speak, the role of the party, how to look at outstanding figures, who offers what, and what to expect from these people. Therefore, when talking about the concept of public safety, it is necessary to formulate the notion of dangers. Well, first of all, we have already started a series of lectures with the consideration of the concepts of national security and public safety. Again, false statements. As for national security, we immediately raise the question, which nationality are we going to secure in Russia, a multinational and multi-confessional country? We are told, well, it seems to be accepted. We say, no need. This word is a code, measure. Therefore, we need to provide a clear lexical definition. We live in society. Moreover, if we talk not only about Russia, but also about humanity as a whole, there are many peoples, nationalities, and religious denominations living on planet Earth. And we need to talk about the concept of public safety. That is, how we will live with each other. Therefore, in this picture, since we are talking about security, we need to talk about dangers. And when you read our various doctrines developed by our political scientists and sociologists in Moscow, there is no clear classification. It's a mess. A mess. That is, everything mainly boils down to security. You understand that there are shootings, killings, and so on. They have started to recognize that alcohol is dangerous. They have begun to talk about food security, but about information security, and the higher it goes. Information refers to technical means of penetrating a computer so that they don't take away how much you have in the bank. The computer contains the wealth you have, accumulated in dollars, or to expose your system. Information security is everything related to information technologies and the presentation of information on technical means. There is no mention of the substantive side of information anywhere. About security from these thoughtless mass media, what they are pouring out, advertisements and so on. It is the substantive side endowed with measure. Why is this happening? Because they do not possess an understanding of measure. There is no understanding of the trinity of matter, information, and measure. They operate with false concepts. Thus they suffer from kaleidoscopic idiocy.